One thing I've got in mind for this coming year, maybe my body is giving me warning about that, but is to learn to stop and listen, and to stop and to find places that allow me to stop. I'll give you an example. Last night, the full moon. Yeah. Steve goes, go out on the front porch to look at the full moon. I went out on the front porch and I looked at the full moon, and I decided to spend some time with the full moon and talk to my sister, who was a Cancer sign, the one who passed away last year, and we had a nice talk, and it was just great to stop and be and witness the beauty and the light. It's all about the light today, isn't it? And I think that's true also with like Bible passages or prayers. We get a little, we feel a little hesitant to repeat things, in our world today. Things are supposed to be new and some new twist on something wonderful. And so when we hear something we've already heard, we quit listening. Do you? I do sometimes. Yeah, and that's probably worth it sometimes. But then if you don't, and you just take time, like I find it's so nice to have a liturgist read the passage, because I always hear it a little differently when I'm sitting quietly and listening. Hey, just some thoughts, because I'm up here, I get to say them. You have better ones. The season of Epiphany, which begins this Tuesday, will continue for the next 6 Sundays. The season of the star is not just the tail end of Christmas or the time gap between Christmas and Lent, although it is that. It's a powerful season of the divine display of the Spirit, as witnessed in the journey of the wise men, in the baptism of Jesus, and in a presentation of many of the stories of Jesus' healing ministry, the way that the Spirit manifests in life. Many of us know too little about Epiphany. We may recognize the star as its symbol and know that it has something to do with the wise men from the east traveling to worship the Christ child, but its deep and cosmic significance is lost on most of us. Epiphany literally means divine revelation. Matthew's gospel is the only gospel that includes that story of the journey of the 3 kings in his telling of the birth narrative. We include these images of the wise and exotic night travelers from foreign lands in our Christmas traditions, but their rightful place is probably, well, I know it is, in the time of Epiphany. But also, if you do any reading, and trust me, you don't have to be a Bible scholar to get online and read, click in. Who were the wise men? What was the significance of their, and you can learn the most interesting things and theories about how the wise men really came a year later. And again, have them anywhere you want. It doesn't matter, because it's the symbolism of these fellows and what they represented. Somebody I read about this year talked about them being diplomats sent from different countries. That's why they gained the ear in the eye of Herod. So there's just a lot of background to the story. Melchior and Caspar and Balthasar traveled into the darkness of the night. You always think of traveling out of it, but they traveled into the darkness. They looked west, I guess, because they come from the east, and they looked into the darkness. Persia, India, Arabia is where they came from. They bore valuable and symbolic gifts. Gold, symbolizing kingship on earth, and also spiritually enlightened wisdom. Frankincense, symbolizing deity and purity, and myrrh, symbolizing death, but really the fight against death forces in life, or strong life. We know that the kings were of sufficient significance to warrant the audience of Herod, the powerful king of Judea and a client of Rome. The birth story up to their point of interest was a touching local tale. But when these regal visitors from afar walked into the simple lives of Jewish peasants, kind of put it on the internet, didn't it? Kind of thrust the story into the world stage. How in the world was a Jewish peasant's birth threatening to a powerful ruler of the day? In the passage following the one we read this morning, Herod realizes that he has been tricked by these night travelers and decrees that all infants under 2 years old in and around Bethlehem must be destroyed. Because of this, and like I said, it could have been a year later, because of this, Mary and Joseph, with their infant son, fled, becoming refugees. Herod was and is symbolic for all time of a ruler who rules not by wisdom and justice, but by cowardice and force. In the three kings' decision to follow the guidance of stars and the warning of angels, rather than to serve the commands of a narrowly focused, self-serving ruler, they changed history and will be forever remembered. They perceived that the event to which they were guided, to which they would sacrifice and humble themselves, was no less than the direct entrance of God into life, history, and human destiny. It's not saying it's the only time, but we recognize when those times are here. This was a powerful time. The three kings symbolized an old order. Their worship of the baby symbolized that it was possible for an old order with power to acknowledge its inevitable end and make way for a new order to come. Praise God. Peace. The king's night journey can also be seen as an image of each of our own night journeys, of seekers who travel through this life journey, trusting the luminous darkness. Think not just of looking out into the dark, but looking out into the velvet dark punctuated by the stars. That surrounds us, and we recognize it to be full of grace and passionate enough to take risks for and to protect. Each time the story of the three kings is told, we are reminded, and this is the line that, if you want to remember anything, respect for mystery is the beginning of wisdom. Respect for mystery is the beginning of wisdom. That good leadership is grounded in the wisdom of deep humility. That greatness can only be great because it recognizes what is bigger than itself. Petty and provincial affairs, limited in time and scope, have never been the concern of the wise ones among us. Matthew's Gospel declares several times that the three wise and powerful kings have come to pay homage. This word, used little today, comes from the Latin homonaticum, or the Latin homo or homen, which means man. But what does that mean? The original use of the word denoted the ceremony by which a vassal declared himself to be the Lord's man. So with this word, the kings were declaring their complete fidelity. They were devoting the whole being of their lives from this time forward to the new life manifest on earth in this newborn child. The simplicity of this tale hides the deep spiritual mysteries within it. All of us are night travelers who must trust the stars of Epiphany to guide us through life. In this story, the single destiny of each of our lives touches the destiny of all humankind. Here, in a panoply of stars, representing the beauty and wonder and givenness of both the divine and the natural order, enters a lone, bright star, announcing nothing less than the birth of God's grace into the world in human form. Each of us are creatures formed by many things: our nature and biology, our culture, our time, our place, and the experiences creating that come from the past. But courageously, heartfully, and remember, cur is the word for heart, courageously or with heart, Facing the luminous darkness, we recognize that God's grace streams into the cosmos and into our lives, not only from the future, but also out of the darkness where the origins of life began. The future isn't just the vast horizon, it's also the nest, the origin, the womb. The darkness holding the stars reminds us that respect for mystery is the beginning of wisdom. This creates a new freedom in our souls and gives us the capacity for unfathomable inspiration to transform our lives and our world. It contains the creative power of grace, which faithfully comes toward us, but which we often do not have the humility, the wisdom, the courage to see. It beckons us to shape our lives and the life of the world anew. A respect for mystery is the beginning of wisdom. A vision, a dream, the tale of a guiding star all paint a picture. A vision doesn't explain life, it evokes life. Its mystery doesn't make it less reliable, only less containable. Its power to guide has far more intensity than a fact or figure's power to instruct. Do you ever think about how so many people today know so much and yet paradoxically seem to understand so very little? Okay, I went to sleep last night so depressed, listening to CNN, listening to what's going on in the world, then looking at my phone and having all these promises of these major happenings, Stephen Colbert, blah, 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 and they never give you any content. They just set you up. They just set you up. We're just jacked around all over the place. Our modern, postmodern world is full of people with capable minds that can absorb vast amounts of information and can retain it and can apply it in fields of academics and technology and business and politics and engineering and law and medicine. Thank you, thank you. And yet they preside over a world in which human hunger cannot be eradicated. They cannot stop the mass killings of innocents at worship or in a school classroom, and continue to accept and employ violence as a means to resolving political and religious differences. Oh, and to obtaining oil. They cannot manage to harness their insatiable desire for power, which destroys the earth and its creatures and leaves the world teetering on the brink of war. Greed and fear rule too many of our lives, leading to deception, ultimate confusion, and coldness of heart. St. Augustine, late night reading probably would put some of you to sleep, but a great mind for his time, for sure, said our whole business in this life is to restore to health the eye of the heart whereby God can be seen. Epiphany reminds us that life is about seeking vision in the mysteries that surround us, about restoring to health the eye of the heart. We must not let the Herods of this world or the Herods within us who are blindly trapped in the death throes of an outdated order. Oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if it truly is an outdated order which we begin to recognize and we begin to rebirth? We must not let it impair our vision. We must, like the wise ones of all time, with faith in God's grace, save the vulnerable by finding and following. Remember how they found an alternative way back home? Isn't that a lovely line for life in general? Listen to this beautiful mythical story by the mythologist and writer Michael Meade in a podcast entitled How Healing Songs Began. He declares, now this is primitive thought, yes, maybe it's enlightened thought. He declares, darkness and night are the mothers of thought. Darkness holds the light of the stars. The ancient people looked out into the darkness of night and found not only thought, but healing song. The music of the spheres. The one who made the earth is how they call God. The one who made the earth made people and placed them on the earth. Some were uncomfortable where they were, so the one who made the earth spoke to them and told them to pack up their bags and go somewhere else. This was the first journey. Well, once moved, I am really shortening the story, gang. Once moved, the first people settled down and began to sleep well and to have rich dreams. But soon, some of them faced illness. They didn't understand it, and they went out to look into the night sky for healing and knowledge. Facing the darkness and unknown is the first step to cure and healing. Facing the darkness and unknown is the first step to cure and healing. At the end of each day, as the story goes, they went out to face the night, and each received a song. They took this knowledge and these songs and went back to the village to seek out the sick. They brought the sick to the center of the village, and everyone gathered around them. And began to sing the songs and to dance with great vitality. And the community grew in vitality, and well-being entered the community. This was the beginning of healing rituals and the understanding of the knowledge necessary to healing. The sick were never to be isolated. They needed the community around them, but the community also needed them. We are currently caught in the darkness at the end of an era, a darkness that troubles the sleep of almost everyone and seems to grow darker each day, with fear and anxiety and an almost, well, for me, catatonic stagnation of thought and feeling in the face of cruel, unbridled power forces. We desire to be placed into the midst of a shared story. Gang, when you share a story, don't we share some stories? Maybe all of them seem a little ancient, outdated. Maybe we're not sure where we're going with them, but we share stories. How wonderful. We desire to be placed into the midst of a shared story that has healing power and that connects us to each other and to our origins and to our future. Many seek meaningful dreams that offer purposefulness to life. I don't know if you've noticed, but people are talking. Well, I'll give you another example. My brother-in-law, a physician for 30 years, an emergency room doctor. We talk every week since my sister's death, and he always says, "Wait, Karin, I want to tell you my dream." Never did that in his whole life, you know. I want to tell you my dream. I think she was there, a presence. Michael Meade uses lovely imagery to suggest how our troubled souls seek an invisible umbilical cord that connects us to the origin and the source of our lives. Can you tell I'm about to be a grandma? I'm getting so into birth stuff. The ailments of one person can become the vehicle through which all can find meaning and healing. Their wounds, their weaknesses, become the door through which we can all find the center of life again. They have a lot to teach us, and they are becoming all of us. We all have illness at this point, almost. I mean, somewhere along the line. The Star of Bethlehem still shines over our world, and it is mirrored in the star which shines in every compassionate heart. It cannot promise to protect us from all harm, or from the violence of nature or other human beings, or from the natural processes of illness and death, but our thinking and feeling and doing and living can be illumined and transformed by our hope in this star that shines out of the luminous darkness. It can guide the path of our night travel to a place of our salvation, both individually, as a nation, and world, and for reverence and protection for Mother Earth. So I have something I want to read to you, and it's one little paragraph. This guy came up today, well, came up because I brought him up in Sunday school. David White wrote a book called Consolations, and it's the solace, nourishment, and underlying meaning of everyday words. And it starts alphabetically, and it just anger, ambition. But he writes so poetically. That's who Maria Popova said, put this by your bed. She said, this is just brilliant. So I just was flipping through it to help myself go to sleep. And here it is. This was last night. This was all done. And I decided, what's genius? Because people get that so wrong, I know. Genius, and there's a lot more to it, but genius is both a specific gift and a possibility that has not yet occurred. It is not a fixed internal commodity to be exploited and brought to the surface, but a conversation to be followed and deepened and understood and celebrated. Genius is the meeting between inheritance and horizon, between what has been told, what can be told, and what is yet to be told, between our practical abilities and our relationship to the gravitational mystery that pulls us on. Our genius, here's the punchline. Our genius is to understand and stand beneath the set of stars present at our birth, and from that place to seek the hidden single star. I'm going to do it again. And from that place to seek the hidden single star over the night horizon we did not know we were following. Hello, synchronicity.